Hello, scholars. As you all know, it's me, the Mandalorian. No, no, wait. I'm not the Mandalorian.
It's just me, Mr. Shaw. But today, we are going to be talking about a really popular, a really well-known character that maybe you're familiar with, both from the TV show The Mandalorian, as well as numerous memes and coffee mugs and hats and t-shirts and masks. Our little friend, Baby Yoda, also known as the Child. Now, you might be thinking, Mr. Shaw, you're not here in school today. Did they ask you to teach a Star Wars class online? Well, no. This is still art class because we're actually going to be talking about a type of art today that led to our little friend here being invented in the first place. Now, when people in the video game or movie or TV industry want to create something brand new, maybe a brand new character or a brand new type of car or spaceship or anything, they have to first get that idea. And another word for an idea is a concept. Now, when our friend Baby Yoda here was first part of the conversation about making a Star Wars show about a Mandalorian taking care of a child, well, they had to think about what kind of alien should it be? What should it look like? And while the people making that TV series were getting together and talking about it, one of them drew a picture. And it was this. They were having a meeting and he scribbled on a piece of paper and imagined a tiny baby inside of a floating pod. And that was the first piece of concept art for the Baby Yoda that we've all come to know and love. Now, concept art are those drawings and paintings that artists create when they're developing a brand new video game character or a TV character or a movie character, or maybe the setting in a fantasy film or even a vehicle that a character might drive around in a futuristic robot movie. Now, concept art exists for all sorts of things, for clothing and for shoes and for characters, but today we're going to focus primarily on concept art for aliens, and specifically baby aliens. We're going to have an opportunity today to draw some aliens, to invent our own creatures, but then thinking about the way that babies develop in real life, human babies and animal babies, and some of the ways that we can recognize them as babies are things that we can add to our drawings, add to our concept art to make some very interesting creatures. So if we look at the history of our friend Baby Yoda, he did start out as just a scribble on a piece of notebook paper. But after that, somebody said, well, why don't we make that baby look like a very famous old school Star Wars character? And you might recognize the old Yoda over here. Now, he was originally made in a movie in the early 1980s. So old Yoda has been around for over 40 years almost. Now, Baby Yoda does have some similarities. They are obviously the same type of alien. They have that green, wrinkly skin. They have those long, pointy ears. But we can recognize, even though it's a made-up character, a fantasy character, we can recognize this as a baby and this as kind of an older version of that same creature, that same animal. Now, when those designers wanted to take that idea of an old Yoda and turn it into a young Yoda, they had to create lots and lots of different ideas, lots of drawings of what they thought a Baby Yoda could look like. Maybe it looked kind of like this. Now, this one looks kind of old. It looks kind of not quite like a baby. So maybe they exaggerated the features and made one like this. Woo! That looks like the Big Chungus version of Baby Yoda. So they weren't quite there yet, but they kept drawing it and they kept practicing it and they kept moving and working until they came up with a design. Oops, get out of my screen. Till they came up with a design that looked like this, and that they decided was the cutest version, the most baby-like version. Now, this was just the first stage of that concept art process. After they found the right look for Baby Yoda, they created him as a sculpture. They actually had artists make him out of clay and actually build a physical version of that. And then they made a puppet version. And there are actors who have to move that Baby Yoda around. And puppetry is one of those types of theater or drama arts that we talked about at the beginning of the year as being a type of art. So what I'm going to show you is a very, very quick film, a behind the scenes from The Mandalorian, that shows how they actually developed a very real feeling alien based on those original drawings, based on ideas of what they had of babies and how to make it move and interact and feel very, very real. After we watch that, we're going to design our own aliens and then design what those babies of those aliens would look like by exaggerating some of the features like eyes or ears or maybe the size of their head. Stay tuned, and then I'll show you what we're doing in just a minute.
Filmmaking now all of a sudden is back to almost old school. Technology becomes invisible, and that's a great thing. Fantasy has no bounds. There's no boundaries, and what you can do here with the new technologies.
We all, I think, had a vision for what bad version of it was, and what was written in there was just that it was a little baby of Yoda's species. When Dave first read it, I know he did a little drawing on the flight home. And then that went over to Doug Chang, and Doug started doing some works on not the baby, but the pram, that egg-shaped pram, the reaching in, the kind of Michelangelo, Sistine Chapel, E.T. imagery, which started to develop. At the same time, the look for the baby itself, the look of the big ears, we had inherited that from Yoda. And I had already been preoccupied with the look of big eyes, and using ears for motion was something that I had wanted to try. And we got lots and lots of drawings. Some of them were too cute, some of them were too ugly, some of them were the wrong proportions, but they were all informing as we gave notes on each drawing. Dave and I, we started zeroing in on what it was. And then finally there was one image that Chris Alsman did that had him wrapped up in what looked like a piece of a flight jacket or something, we didn't know, and his eyes were a little weird, he looked a little out of it, something a little off with it, but we found it charming, and that became the rallying image that we said, this is good. And it developed from there. And then once we had that, then they started to do maquettes of that, but the maquette wasn't cute. And then we started to work through it, and that's when the people from Legacy came in. That's really when it became the baby.
I'll start with left.
Okay.
And
It started to take on a life of its own.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that. Like a high chair. Oh my God, that's great.
But it had a little extra spark that just happens sometimes. And you can't always explain it. Sometimes it just becomes extra magical.
it comes forward, tilt the head up a little bit. Yeah, now reach. Oh my God, yeah. That's the stuff.
So as the director just directs it like it's just a single character, you know, we all listen to the direction, but then you take the part that's specific to what you're operating with them, and you know when the head's going to turn left, and I'll try to beat it with leading with the eyes, and the ears will go up to give it, you know, it just starts to work itself out.
Look at it. You don't even need a story. Just put the camera on the baby. It wins your heart over.
He's number one on the call sheet today.
Yep.
So let's take the time to do that right. Let's give ourselves plenty of footage.
Seeing him on camera and seeing him in person, the way that it activates your primal childhood dreams, we're all going to be second fiddle to this little guy. That's how cool he is.
Sort of builds the moment where he looks, gathers himself, and then holds up the two hands forward.
All right. I hope you guys found that really interesting, and seeing that process from the very, very beginning all the way until the end, and seeing how many people, how many different types of artists have to be involved to create just one character. So the next time you play that video game, the next time you're playing Among Us or Fortnite, remember there were a lot of people who went into developing the settings and the characters and the way that they move and talk anytime you play that game or anytime you watch that movie or that TV show. Now today, we're going to be looking at how to create those characters. We've done a lot of figure drawing before, but now we're going to exaggerate it a little bit. Now we could see this baby Yoda again compared to the old Yoda. And then I also found some models of humans at different sizes. We have kind of an adult human size, and you can tell the head seems kind of smaller compared to the rest of the body. When you're kind of an older child, maybe a teenager, you haven't quite filled out yet. You might be kind of tall and skinny because you're growing up, but you're not yet growing out. But when you're a child or a baby, the head seems to be a little bit bigger when compared to the rest of the body. And the body is sometimes kind of rounder because babies, especially young babies, have what we call baby fat. And that helps protect them, and it keeps them kind of soft and squishy in case they fall down. It's easier for them to get back up again. So those kinds of things actually exist in all different forms of nature. If we look at a young deer, a fawn, compared to a grown deer, we can see that that baby's deer head and eyes and ears seem bigger compared to the rest of its body. And then as that deer grew and matured and became older, its head seems to be smaller, and it even had the addition of these antlers, because some animals, and maybe even the aliens you designed today, could have something extra that grows. Maybe they develop wings, kind of like a butterfly grows wings after being a caterpillar, or like a deer or many other horned animals with antlers or other types of headgear, they could develop those as they get older. Now, I've also added next to this another very popular alien that has a baby version out there in the world. We can see Groot, the giant kind of person / tree, and then the smaller version of that. And just like any kind of design, when we see a baby cat and then we see a grown cat, there are a lot of similarities. So we just want to make sure while we're designing our aliens today and then designing the baby version of those aliens that we want to keep some of those features. If the grown-up version is covered with hair, the baby should be too. If the grown-up version has pink skin and a tail, well, maybe that baby has those as well. The same way that you look kind of like your parents and your parents look like their parents. Any type of animal or alien would follow a lot of those same rules. So let's take a look at the sheet. Oops, you're going to be getting today. On the front of that sheet, you're going to have 4 different aliens that I've already found for you. And what I'd like you to do is write your name at the top of your paper, just like we always do. So I could write my name here, Mr. Shaw, and also write your class. Now, that's not dreadfully important because at the end of class today, you're going to get to keep it. You're going to get to take that home. You can put it in your seed sack if you have a take-home folder, or if you have drawers in your classroom, you can put it in there. But what you want to do is choose at least one, maybe even all 4 of these aliens, and see if you can take some of those physical features of the adult and make a baby version that maybe has a larger head and a smaller body. Oop, maybe not quite this tall. But if I did have that little tiny baby version with those exaggerated features, there she goes. I might want to look at how that mom has those squiggly head pieces way up here. I might want to make those eyes much, much bigger, maybe little tiny hands. Now, if I wanted to do a more detailed version of that, I kind of like this bat guy down here. So let's take a look at, oh, I'm sorry. I'll do this guy instead. I see he kind of has like an octopus head. He has those large black eyes. He has kind of squid-like tentacles on top of his head. So if I were making a baby version of that, I would still have kind of a large head. I could do those little, almost like those little tentacles coming off the top. Now, obviously, I'm making my baby kind of big here, and that's okay. I can always shrink it when I'm done. If you want to draw your baby a little larger so that you have space to fit all the details, you could absolutely do that. But I'm making the eyes a lot bigger on the head compared to the rest of the size of the face. Still going to have a little nose and a little tiny mouth. I'm going to make the mouth not quite as wide on the head. I'm going to give him some little cheeks. And then since this looks kind of like an aquatic guy, he makes me think of kind of a fish. I'm assuming the babies might be kind of like a tadpole, kind of like a baby frog before they've grown their legs. So maybe the baby version of this guy is kind of like a little half person, half fish. And maybe he's wearing like a little baby jumper thing here. And I think that looks pretty cute. That looks like a baby version of him. I'm going to shrink this down to maybe the size that he normally would be. Babies are typically smaller than the adults, and I could imagine that being kind of a baby version of the same alien, because I took some of those physical features and brought it down to the child version of that adult. Now, if you'd like to use those 4 samples I put on the front for you, you absolutely can. Or on the back, there will be a template with 4 blank squares. So if you'd like to invent your own creatures, or even use a character that you know already, you can draw the adult version of that character and then the younger version of that character. As always, if you're finished drawing and you have a little bit of time left, you can take out your crayons or colored pencils and you can color your picture. You could even add a setting. Perhaps these two, the father and the son, live underwater and they could be taking some swim lessons today, or maybe going out to find some seafood or something delicious to eat. But whatever you end up doing, I hope you have a lot of fun with it. I do apologize that I'm not there. I miss you all, but I'll see you in a couple of days, and definitely let me know what you came up with. Have a good one. Listen to your teachers, have fun, learn a lot, and stay safe. Bye-bye.